Welcome to Paranormal or Reality. On today's video, we investigate haunted schools, where ex-employees are still working the graveyard shift. Or you might encounter a young student that is still walking the halls since 1940s. Now make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's begin. When I was around 8 years old, I went to a large private school that comprised of kindergarten all the way up to college. School is called Olapsi in Marikina, Philippines. In the part of the building I was studying at, there were two washrooms, an upstairs and downstairs. Students were allowed to go to, but were recommended to go to the one closest to their classroom. The closest bathroom to me was the lower level. I hated going because the room depended on natural light from the windows for lighting. It was dim at best. It really just had a creepy vibe. Not exactly sure when it started, but every time I'd go to that bathroom, I would feel someone watching over my back. I would turn around and I would not see anything unusual, but the sensation was there. After a couple of weeks, the encounters escalated to a point that I could finally see who or what was looking at me in my peripherals. It was a young boy about 5 years old, wearing a white shirt, blue shorts, and dark hair. His skin was a lifeless gray color. He would stare at me without breaking contact. I remember what he looked like very vividly. However, when I would turn to face him, he would be gone. This would happen every time I went to the washroom. I got so scared that I decided I would use the second floor washroom from then on. One day I really had to go, but I wasn't able to make it to the second floor washroom. I wet my pants embarrassingly, and I was sent home for the day. I told my parents I just couldn't hold it. It was a much easier excuse than having to tell them a little boy is watching me use the restroom on the first floor one. My older brother, 10 years old at the time, who went to the same school, asked me why I opted to go to the second floor bathroom instead of the one closest to my classroom. This time, I decided to tell my brother the real reason, expecting him to tell me it's all in my head or it's just my imagination. But boy, was I wrong. When I told him, it was because every time I went to the first floor washroom, I felt like someone was watching me. My brother replied with, "Is it a boy?" He proceeds to describe exactly how the boy looks, down to the way it stares at you. I was completely freaked out when he shared his identical experiences with the ghost. I'm 19 years old now. To this day, I have absolutely no explanation for all this. I have vivid memories of the boy's image, and I have never felt the same eerie feeling from being stared at by that boy. I am writing this now because my brother just ran into my room and told me this story. He is super freaked out, so I decided to post his experience. My brother goes to the same middle school I did when I was his age. I remember a casual conversation with my health teacher, who was also the gym teacher, telling us about a kid playing basketball. We were in a brand new middle school, and the old middle school was about 30 feet from the new one. He had been the gym teacher at the old middle school too. I forget what year he taught in. The kid, whose name I can't remember, had heart problems and was playing basketball in the gym during class. Then, the kid collapsed. My teacher ran over to him, and 911 was called, but it was too late. By the time my teacher got to him, he was dead. Then, everyone in the gym, which was about 50 to 100 people, had to watch as the paramedics took the body away, bawling their eyes out. The memory still haunts him. When the new school was built, they put a framed photo of him in the trophy case, with a rose. They still use the old middle school as the rec center, because it has a pool. Anyway, my brother's friend had lacrosse practice the day before, but forgot his bag in the locker room and was too scared to go in the gym alone. So, he brought my brother with him. As they went into the gym, they saw one person in there. It was a kid, playing basketball. When they opened the door, the kid turned to them, then disappeared. They ran back into the school, screaming bloody murder. When they told a teacher, they ended up in the office with the principal and my old health teacher. When they told him what the kid looked like, my old teacher crumpled. They had described what he looked like, down to the shirt he was wearing when he died. The principal gave them detention for sneaking into the rec center. Some kid was using the bathroom in the office area. He heard the conversation and told everyone. By the time school was out, everyone knew. The teachers let class out early so the kids wouldn't have to see them cry. Now my mom doesn't believe him, neither does our dad or the principal. But I do, and so does my old teacher. I hope one day the ghost can finally rest. I remember when I was a kid, I heard the stories that every school was built over a cemetery cliché, but my elementary school actually was built over one. Ever since I was a little girl, I was heavily interested in the paranormal. I always thought my school had something weird going on. For some reason, I was invested on proving to myself that I was right. In 4th grade, my experiments began. I purposely stayed later in my classroom, hoping something would happen. I was always alone for like 10 minutes every day in the classroom. I waited for like 5 minutes in silence to hear something. I was slowly getting frustrated and decided to drop my experiments. One day it happened. I was alone in my classroom, putting some things away in my locker space as quickly as possible so I could join my friends in the patio. My classroom was at the end of the hallway on the 2nd floor, so I was in a hurry to catch up. I could hear the muffled voices of the other kids outside. In one instant, it was like a crowd of people talking out loud. It just hit me in the ears. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but it was loud. It was louder than a bunch of kids playing outside. I grabbed my backpack and ran outside. When I was just by the stairs, I closed my backpack and walked to meet my friends. I was freaked out, but I didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't want a bunch of other kids to stay late in the classroom with me. Also, if someone told a teacher, they would think I was doing it for attention. Some weeks passed and I wasn't staying late anymore because I didn't want to hear those voices again. One day I thought it would be interesting to leave a piece of paper with a message for the ghosts hidden behind my books. I made sure nobody was there and that nobody could see it in plain sight. Sure enough, I received answers written in the paper. There were simple sentences with yes or no answers. Since my mom was a teacher at my school, I was the first kid to arrive at the classroom. So before anyone else would come, I would open my message to see the answer. Eventually, I stopped doing that because it felt wrong. I could tell the ghosts were getting a bit annoyed. It wasn't much, but it was enough that made me a believer in ghosts. This story happened about 4 years ago. I'm in my late 20s, so is my friend. It was around June in Toowoomba, Australia. My friend Mark asked me to come pick him up from his college, Downlands. June is when it gets its coldest in Toowoomba. That night I remember it reaching 4C25F. It was around 6:30 p.m. when I reached the college. Mark is a teacher there. Apparently his car had stopped working. I wandered through the dark trying to find the admin block. I finally reached the block and Mark was inside. He looked shaken up. I asked him what happened. He said in a shaky voice, "He's here. A ghost. We're at the school too late. He's been moving stuff." Now, as you can imagine, at this point, I started to absolutely freak out. Downlands is a boarding school, so I knew there was a small amount of people still here. However, the boarding block and admin block is a far distance between them. I was not about to wander through the dark pathways with Mark spouting the stuff he was saying. Instead, I decided to go back to the car with him. So, we locked up the office and cautiously walked out. As we were blindly walking the concrete path in our thick jackets, the wind was making a howling noise as it began to get stronger. Then I saw a flickering light, an orange light coming from behind us. All of the sudden, it got really warm. I mean, a quick sudden boost in temperature. We were about halfway down this hill, so Mark and I turned around to see what was at the top of the hill. This still freaks me out when I think about it. There was a man on fire on the top of the hill. He was standing there watching us. As we turned around, he stared at us for about 5 seconds. It felt like 5 hours. He then let out the most horrendous scream, then started to run at us. Mark and I ran so fast we fell over to the side of the path. The man on fire ran past us, down the hill, into the forest. I got up. I looked down toward the path. He was still running and now was going towards a road. Then the fire slowly vanished along with him. At that point, we decided to run towards the boarding block to find another member of faculty. We reached the block. We found one of Mark's colleagues. He let us stay the night. We were told, "It's a common thing to see if you stay in the admin block too late, or if you're walking on those paths at that time of night." Even from this block, everyone can hear his screams, at least once a week, as he terrorizes the school grounds at dark. Apparently, the faculty member, whom was also a teacher, said he had only seen the burning man once. When I asked Mark the next morning what he had seen in the admin block, he replied with, "All the drawers started to open. Then I heard a voice say, 'The fire has been lit.'" When I first started to work here, the office ladies warned me that I shouldn't stay too late in the building. Now I know why. Before we left the next morning, we went to the admin block to ask the office ladies if they had ever seen him. We went in and saw a younger lady in her 30s. She asked, "Do you have an appointment, Mark?" "No, but we just wanted to ask if you had ever seen." Then an older lady, maybe late 60s or early 70s, came out from the back and said, "You two saw the burning man, didn't you?" Mark replied, "Yes, we did. We saw him last night." The old woman came closer and said, "Yes, all the drawers were open. I've seen him many times. Not a pleasant experience. Try not to stay late. If you do, don't come anywhere near this building." The younger lady spoke up. "I've seen him twice. I hated it. I've never stayed late again." We both left. Mark got the day off. I never stepped foot on those school grounds ever again. The burning man at Downlands College has been noted as one of Toowoomba's most menacious paranormal experiences. Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.